Hello. Hi, Empower 2020. I'm Liz Prue, VP of Marketing here at Base, and I'm thrilled to have Alicia Flairclough here with us today. Alicia is the EA to the CEO at TruePhone and the founder of EA How To, which is a global community of 15,000 plus members of high-achieving executive, personal, and virtual assistants. Hi, Alicia.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining. I am following all of the comments here, so we will try to get to all of your questions. I've already started polling some of them. For those on Facebook, just a quick heads up, we may be at like a 10-ish second delay, so I will make sure to keep checking the feed. So if we need to, we can go back and answer any of your questions. Okay, let's jump right into it. Thank you for that intro part to this session. I think I'd love to build a little bit on what you discussed. And one of the most asked questions is advice for people switching careers. I know that that's a pretty big question, but where can people start?
Yeah, I think the big thing is selling the way that your experience is advantageous to the business. So a lot of companies are looking for somebody with a diverse background or looking for somebody to bring a fresh perspective. And that's really, really important. So not just in the EA world, I've had other jobs where I have been the selected candidate because I didn't come from that background and other candidates did. So that obviously won't be the case with every employer that you go with. And some employers, it will be really important to them that you have, for example, you're applying for banking and they want you to have a banking background. But in other areas, it will be really beneficial to the company to have an outside perspective. And that's actually what happened at TruePhone. I have no telco background or IoT background at all. But it was actually my YouTube background that they found really interesting. And the fact that I was coming in with a fresh perspective and different ideas was the thing they found appealing.
I think that was one of the most exciting things to hear about when we first started chatting and having you join the conference was that you are so skilled in YouTube and you use that to your advantage. Can you talk a little bit about how I identified that you could use those skills and then what you did in order to apply it to getting a position as an executive assistant?
YouTube was a really interesting and crazy ride because it started very accidentally back in about 2009, early 2010, and YouTube was not what it is now. Back then, YouTube was still kind of cat videos and not a great deal else. And I was actually teaching at a hypnosis and meditation school in Vancouver, BC. I was doing a weekend seminar there talking about a relaxation technique that I had been taught for sleep. And I was explaining this technique to a group of about 30 people. And I said, look, we really don't have time to keep going on with this. I think what we'll do is we'll move on and I'll just record this for you and send it to you. And back then, YouTube was the only thing I really knew to record anything on. And I certainly didn't even have an iPhone then. I didn't get an iPhone until 2010. And so I uploaded a video expecting it to kind of have about 30 people watch it. And then within about 2 days, it had 6,000 views and all of these comments. And I really didn't understand why. I didn't get it. I thought it was a bit weird that why is anyone else watching this sleep video? It's not really for them. And it kind of just snowballed. And I did YouTube on and off over the years, and then just kind of found that I had learned a lot about video. I had released programs online for various things that I had done all myself, just learning how to set up a camera in front of myself and filming at home. And so when it came time to switch roles, I was on a maternity leave contract that was coming to an end. So I was looking for a new job and decided to make EA videos on YouTube. And that was really as I said in the session, that was really about balancing my profile, because when you Googled me, I didn't come up as an EA, and I wanted to. So I just started playing the algorithm and making videos called Executive Assistant Tips for Organization, Executive Assistant Tips for Microsoft Word. And it was really all about just making myself Googleable as an EA, and also hoping that some of those people who were hiring were going to Google the people who were candidates and find those videos and like them.
That is so interesting. I think that is just, that's strategic. That I think that's something that in any role, really, I wouldn't even think to do. So I think that's such great advice. So for folks that are looking for their own YouTube skill or whatever that skill is, how do you take a list of skills and best list them out on a resume to really make a difference? How do you know which ones you should focus on?
I think you look at the kinds of roles you're applying for and you check out what they're looking for. And so you tailor it to those. LinkedIn in particular is obviously quite keyword heavy. I did see someone in the comments saying that they put their education first. I always put my work experience first on my CV, most recent back, and then education. I think the further away your education is in terms of years, then there's not really that much point to having what degree you did in 2003 or something like that at the top. I think it should always be work experience first, but always add those kind of paragraph descriptions of what you do, and realize that it's probably a given that you should know diary management, that you should know scheduling, that you should know comms, that kind of thing. Mention them, because you do need to make sure that those keywords are searchable, and that they don't assume that people will go, oh, okay, I've been an EA for 10 years. They must know I can do that. Mention them, but really highlight the things that aren't as common. So highlight that you have been a social media manager, or that you have a business Instagram account that has 30,000 followers, or whatever it is. I think the key to figuring out which of those skills you should be highlighting, I think there's probably 3 really, and that's self-awareness, an understanding of what you are good at, and resourcefulness, and understanding of what you can learn quite quickly that will be useful, and also curiosity. So thinking about whether it's the business that you're in right now or the businesses that you're applying to, what kinds of problems they need solved and how you can solve them. Just be curious about the business, ask around, ask who needs help. There are always departments that need people. You might be really finance minded, and you might be able to do some assistant finance work for them. So just find an area of the business that needs help.
I love that. Find an area of the business that needs help. That's like the quickest way in any role that you're in to really showcase your value that you're providing. That's great. One of our Facebook community members asked, your advice was to connect with your fellow EA community. There are so many out there. How do you decide which ones to join and how many to join? Quickly,
Wow.
I would say you're in one right now. So this is a great one. Of course, Alicia has her
I'm a
community.
little partial to EA How To, and I would suggest that between the base community and the EA How To community, you're doing pretty well. I agree, there's a lot. And I found that I needed to, at first, particularly when I was trying to build a network in London, because I didn't have anyone, I joined a lot, and I joined a lot of London networks. And there are, then I kind of narrowed it down, and there are 2 that I'm a part of, that are London specific, that don't really do a huge amount online, because it's nice to be able to have people in your local area. So have a look at what's local, particularly whenever we do go back to some sort of normal and people are meeting in person. It is really nice to be able to go and meet other EAs in your area for a drink or a hotel tour or a venue tour or something like that. But obviously, the thing about EA How To is that I wanted it to be accessible to everyone. So it is we've got over 20,000 members now. We're over 16,000 on LinkedIn. So we're LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and we're on eahowto.com. So we have events in so many different places. And we also have the Gin Lounge as well, which is the paid monthly subscription for additional content and live sessions and things like that, and free stuff. So I think find something that's local to you, but also just find the groups that resonate with you. Some of them might not, really be as valuable as others. I know there's a lot to weed through. So just try them and see what they're like. I mean, that's the best way to find out.
We also, for those watching right now, later today, we will have a session dedicated to how to create your own community or know how to find your community. So that's a great point, Alicia, to make sure that you know what you're looking for. So that way you're not just joining and you don't have any expectation of what you're wanting to get out of it.
And some groups, I guess, will be targeted to different levels and different things. So I know the thing that I found that I really wanted to provide with EA How To was I wanted it to be education focused. So I wanted tutorials and tips and things like that. Whereas the groups that I was part of are very heavily entertainment and venue focused and travel focused, and having suppliers come in and tell you about those things, which is really useful, but it just wasn't the niche I was wanting to fill. So, it depends on what you're looking for. There are so many groups, just join and you don't have to stay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can always go, but don't leave this one.
Don't leave ours.
We love having you guys here. Another question we have from Facebook. It seems like almost any skill set could be translated into an EA role. Teaching, tech, HR, event management, nannying. What's the best way to really highlight your previous skills if you've never been an EA before?
I think it depends on the role you're applying for. I think you really need to highlight the most appropriate skills for the specific job. So if I was applying for a tech company, I'm really going to play up those tech skills. If I know that the CEO I'm applying to travels a lot, I'm really going to talk a lot in my interview about my travel experience and travel booking experience. If they travel with their family, I'm going to talk about how I traveled as a nanny throughout North America. So I can talk about, I understand, particularly if you're doing a PA sort of role where you're booking personal things for the CEO, you're going to want to talk about that you understand the needs of traveling with twin toddlers, and that you understand what you're going to need to be booking for a family when they're going away. So it's challenging to say, because I think it heavily depends on the role you're applying for.
Mm-hmm.
You can always find a way to bring up your experience in conversation, though. Steer the conversation towards what you want to talk about.
Oh, love that. Steer the conversation. That's great advice. With the pandemic, there's been a lot of uncertainty, but like a lot of our panelists, yourself included, have been saying that there's also a lot of opportunity to focus on yourself. A lot of us say we want to do different professional development, but then, you never make the time. Now's the time to really make the time. I'd love to hear what you have done personally, and then what advice you would give to folks in terms of how much time should they spend on professional development, weekly or monthly? Should they do paid courses? What free resources are available? A bit of a loaded question, but first we can start with
I mean, personally, I threw myself into EA How To, and that started around May. I think for the first month or so, London went into isolation it was about the 21st of May where we went into full-on lockdown. And I spent a few weeks really lost. I really wasn't sure what to do. I was very frustrated being at home. I think I was mourning the loss of all of the things I had coming up. My mum was coming from Australia. We had planned 5 amazing weeks in Europe and those kinds of things. Yeah. So the first few weeks were really getting over that's not going to happen, canceling trips, figuring out what the new normal in the office was going to be, because I was head of the UK COVID situation. We had 14 countries at TruePhone to try and deal with. So getting people set up with anything they needed. Once all of that died down and I had settled into being at home, which was around May, I really doubled down on EA How To. That's when the Facebook group was born. So there wasn't always an EA How To Facebook group, because I never felt that I could commit enough time to it back when I was commuting and going out after work all the time. So in May that started, and we now have over 1,500 members since the middle of May that are part of the Facebook community. So I think the people who are watching from EA How To will certainly recognize that from May till now, the growth of EA How To just went through the roof, and that's how I've spent my time. In terms of what you could be doing for your professional development, there are so many free resources. I do not recommend starting with the paid stuff. There is a place for the paid stuff, but things like YouTube, obviously, the groups that you're in, so groups like BASE, attending conferences like this, and there are quite a few. At EA How To, we've held a lot of free webinars or really cheap webinars. So asking around the groups that you're in, and also LinkedIn Learning. So LinkedIn Learning isn't free, but I would argue that it's better value for money than almost any other training you're going to get, because you can learn, I swear you can learn anything on LinkedIn Learning. I don't think I've ever come across a subject that you can't type into LinkedIn Learning and get multiple courses on that are really, really valuable. And particularly for EAs, anything you want to learn about Microsoft, about Google, about SharePoint, about web development, if you have a interest in learning a bit of HTML and CSS and being able to help update the website, jump on LinkedIn Learning.
That's great advice. And that leads into our next question, which is another one of our most asked questions. What tech tools do I learn now? And I think that's that can depend, like you were saying, based on what job you're in or what your responsibilities are. But in our current state, and with Zoom being the new normal for now, what other tools do you recommend, just in general, assistants should hone their skills in?
I mean, you're never going to go wrong with mastering your Microsoft suite and your Google tools.
Mhm.
That's just standard, and that's going to be expected of you no matter where you go. I have to admit, things that I don't use for a while, it's kind of a use it or lose it. So if I'm in a role where it requires no Excel, I just do not have the ability to retain all of that Excel knowledge that I've had before. So I would probably go and brush up on something like that. If I, just think about what you're rusty on, but also just look at what's trending. Have a look at the job advertisements and see what people are talking about. For me at the moment, I've gone all in with EA How To on SharePoint, because I think SharePoint is the future of every workplace. And I didn't know anything about it for a long time and wondered why I hated SharePoint. And it was not that SharePoint was bad. It was, oddly enough, if I didn't know how to use it, it's a little bit tricky. So that's what I have been doing. And I've been holding a lot of sessions on SharePoint, starting right from the basics and working our way through. But yeah, you can never go wrong just going through all of your Microsoft and your Google tools, and then niching on whatever it is you decide you're going to go deep on. So it might be that you're passionate about graphic design, or you're just really handy with Canva or something, and you think, you know what, I could probably enhance these skills by learning some Photoshop and getting on Adobe Creative Cloud and playing around, and jump on LinkedIn Learning, and I guarantee you will learn so much.
That's great advice. I live in Canva. It's the
Yeah.
best thing ever. If you guys aren't on it, you should definitely take advantage. And I think I've been using Adobe
So
Suite.
much of it is free.
Yeah, yeah, and Adobe Suite has a subscription now, I think, monthly. So it's not like a gazillion dollars.
Yeah, you can do, and you can sort of pick and choose. So you don't have to do a crazy expensive one. You can usually have a look at which tools you actually need. And, some of you might even be able to get it through your current employer, and you just don't have a license for it because you haven't needed it, but you can probably get one.
Awesome. Great advice. We have another viewer asking a question. You said that marketing yourself is important. How can I quickly do a personal brand audit to see where I am and what I can do to optimize?
First of all, LinkedIn. Definitely go through your LinkedIn, make sure it's up to date, make sure it's keyword rich, that you have a custom banner that makes you stand out. Use your professional title. So I see a lot of titles that say organizational rock star, and that's fun, but it actually is quite confusing for recruiters and people who are trying to find you, and it doesn't help keyword wise. So that, and the / organizational rockstar / travel whiz / Excel, like just put executive assistant or personal assistant or senior personal assistant, whatever it is that you're aiming for, use that as your title. But if you're looking for a job right now, you need to be on LinkedIn. If it is an option for you, pay for LinkedIn Premium, because you'll get great insights into jobs that are available. You can do a monthly LinkedIn Premium, so you don't have to commit to a full year, because I know it's not super cheap. But if you can swing it, it is pretty valuable, and you'll get access to all of LinkedIn Learning as well. So I would say that would be the first place to start. Then if you're going to niche in something that you can build a profile for, go through all of your social media accounts, make sure they're either locked down or respectable. and then show off any work you can. So for me, that was YouTube. Obviously, that's not going to be the case for everyone, but it could be that you show off your graphic design skills on Instagram, or a great feature that I don't think always existed on LinkedIn is now the portfolio feature. So I have on my personal profile, if you go to my personal profile at the top, you'll see a selection of videos that I've made, and I include some from my YouTube channel and some from TruePhone, because I make content for TruePhone. So that way recruiters who come and look at my profile can see a little selection of things that I've done. Also, blogging on LinkedIn is a great way to get your content shared. So creating valuable content and opinion pieces. LinkedIn has such a great capacity for you to get really good reach at the moment that I don't know will last forever. It's kind of like the early days of Facebook pages, when it was quite easy to get exposure, and now it's not. Or in Twitter back in the day, the early days of Twitter, it was much easier to get a following on Twitter than it is now. And I feel like that's where we're at with LinkedIn. It hasn't hit peak saturation. So I would focus on LinkedIn.
I just dropped your profile in for everyone watching, so that way you can see. So we have time for one more question. What is the best way to market myself when wanting to switch from working for a company to working for myself?
Get a website, list your skills, list your services, and again, jump on LinkedIn, go and solve people's problems. So switching to VA work is very popular at the moment. So be aware that there are lots of opportunities and there's lots of competition, because so many people are doing that right now. If you do have a job, I certainly don't recommend just quitting to become a VA. I think build it up on the side, maybe take some contracts. You can also look at places like Upwork, where people hire freelancers. I've hired quite a few people on Upwork for small jobs. And so you can build a reputation on a platform like that. But it's really building trust. And I mean, being a VA is running your own business. So it's a lot, and there's a lot more to it than just doing what you do now and doing it from home. There's a lot to consider in terms of security, your systems, how you're going to get clients, how you're going to pay your tax, security of information between, storing things on your laptop or accessing their systems from home. So what are you going to do if your systems fail? What IT support do you have? Because currently I just ring the IT guys in London and say help, and you may not have access to that when you go out on your own. So don't spend a fortune on a website. Get on something like Wix, or hire somebody on Upwork to do something basic and get a page set up for you that you can edit yourself. But there are a lot of tools. Things like Wix are really, really handy, because you'll want to change it a lot. If you're thinking about working for yourself now, I guarantee the services that you're offering now will be different to the services you're offering in 12 months, and you'll want to update your website. So do something, whether it's Wix or WordPress, something that you have some control over, that's not too difficult for you to update. But that, and just, I would say, blogging on LinkedIn is really underrated. Writing articles about how just being helpful all of the time, sharing information, posting tips, and then having other people share that information. And you're always branding it with, if it's, I don't know, Alicia VA, putting your logo on everything that you're sharing so that people are constantly seeing you.
And again, Canva is a great tool to do that, guys. It's
Canva and PicMonkey.
Oh yeah, PicMonkey's great too.
I've used PicMonkey forever, and it does different things to Canva. They're not the same sort of, they're a similar tool, but they don't replace each other. But for leaflets and banners and things like that, Canva and PicMonkey all the way.
Awesome. Well, this has been such a pleasure. We just love chatting with you, Alicia. Before we head out, can you remind people where to find you?
Yeah, so head on over to eahowto.com, and there are links on eahowto.com to the YouTube channel, the LinkedIn page, the Facebook group, which is private for assistants only. So we don't have recruiters and suppliers and things like that in there. We keep it locked down. And we also have our links to the Gin Lounge, our premium monthly membership, which is like $10 a month. So we say the price of a cocktail a month, and you get all of this other free content and stickers and webinars and all of that kind of stuff. And we've also done a discount for everybody attending base as well. There's a free video that I think, are you guys sending it out via email to all of the attendees or posting it in the Facebook group or something?
Yes.
Where you've got your base 20 base comp. Have to go back and have a look. That's really bad that I've forgotten off the top of my head. I have a feeling it's base comp. But yeah, there's a free video that you guys can get from EA How To with that code, and also a discount code that I'm sure will be pasted in the group.
Yes, and we will send that out by email, guys, so look for that. And thank you again, Alicia. This has been great.
Thanks so much. Bye.
Bye.